Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to JSpeak. This week, we answer some questions. First question, will we see a comparison between the EVH 5150 6L6 version and the Mesa Triple Crown 50 with 6L6s? Probably. I've been watching the EVH 6L6 models for a while now. It'll happen, I'm just not sure when. So, patience. Second question, can you use three 12-inch speakers in a 412 cab? No. I don't know how you'd wire three speakers to make that work. You could use three different speakers. You could absolutely use four different speakers. As long as they're the correct ohms that they're going to match and you can wire them properly, you can have different speakers in cabs all day long. Out of the cabs I have 2 of 5 that have the same speaker in them. Other than that, they're all 212s and they have 2 different speakers in them. So happy speaker switching because it's awesome and it's fun. You can cover a lot more ground that way, and there's some really great combinations depending on your amps. It opens up recording possibilities where you can mic both speakers with the same mic in the same position, and you can kind of blend them and get something unique, which is what I do a lot. Totally do that. The one thing I want to add to the whole speaker cab thing is that the 2536 cab has 2 speakers. You can play it in mono and you can play it in stereo. 2 different amps at the same time through the same cab plugged into different speakers. The problem with doing that is that the cab sounds hollow. If you've only plugged into one side and you're miking one side, there's all that air moving around in the cabinet and you can hear it through the mic. Like when you're just miking that one speaker, or if you just remove one speaker, if you can wire it ohm-wise, it's gonna sound weird. Like don't do that. I don't know if that's what your question was, and I'm sure it wasn't, but just for general knowledge, I have done stuff like this where I've wired a 412 to be 2 different 212s as a stereo type thing with different speakers, or even I've done 4 different speakers in a 412 too. You can hear the empty space, like the cabinet just doesn't sound right. So just take note of that, just as a disclaimer. Do I think the American Professional Jag, the E strings, are too close to the edge of the fretboard? Yeah, they're probably a little too close. There's been a couple guitars over the years that I thought, man, you go to bend or vibrato, the low E or the high E, and you fall off the fretboard. So I think you just got to be conscious of that. I think the 2015 Gibsons had the wider fretboard, which was cool, and you didn't have that problem. It felt significantly wider than a normal Gibson guitar, but I think if you have problems with that, maybe try one of those guitars from that year. Obviously that's a Fender, but yeah, it's just a different guitar. I'd say try to practice your technique and do the best you can. Last 2 questions are about the ORI20 and the SV20, so the Marshall amps, so the Studio Vintage and the ORI20 head. So the first one was, did I notice a volume difference in the room between those 2 amps? Yeah, there is a volume difference. It's not, I don't think it's crazy. I think the SV20 was louder. The second question, does the ORI20 only sound good cranked? For the most part, I mean, you can use it in 5-watt mode, but for any of you that have used amps that have power switching, most of them sound best at their full state. But once you go to their full state, whether it's 100 watts or 15 watts, they generally sound bigger, fuller, just because they're pushing everything in the amp and the tubes a different way than if you cut everything down to like a 1/2 watt or 5 watts. They just open up more. That's why, like, comparing a 100-watt amp to a 15-watt amp, 100 just sounds bigger because it's got more glass behind it. Like the power is just full throttle versus, a 15-watt full throttle. It's just different, right? The ORI20 and the SV20, they're both good amps if you want that sound. Like if you want modern stuff, they don't get there, man. Like you have to use pedals or EQs, or they're similar origin, right? To me, the SV20 is a better sounding amp overall. If you don't want to spend $1,300, get the Origin, or look elsewhere. I mean, the Shure Badger is an awesome amp. I do want to compare that against both of those amps, and maybe we'll do it in the mix or something. Paying for the Marshall name is one thing, paying for made in the UK is another. How deep are your pockets, and do you care about that kind of stuff? In the room, it sounds different. That's one of the issues with the videos, is that playing an amp in the room through a cabinet, you feel it, right? You're going to react to it, whereas hearing it mic'd up, especially close mic, it's not the same. If you have any questions or comments, please ask them. Be sure to check out the Patreon page. I've got some really cool stuff that I'm going to do on that. And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Many more videos to come. Don't miss one sub.